dream about.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Sports Lounge right here on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM, Santa Barbara News Press Radio. In the lounge today is a long-time, I can say friend now, was a coach of mine through college. We kind of went through the maturation process together as player coach, and he has blown his career up into being a staple in the NFL, coaching defensive backs on the highest level possible. He's here with us, Coach Ron Milus. Spent some time with the Las Vegas Raiders, a huge majority of his coaching career with the San Diego Chargers. He has now been brought on to the Indianapolis Colts and is going to make a huge impact there with those guys. And Coach, let's just jump right into that with where you are now. And I'm going to ask you, you spent the majority of your career with the Chargers. Who was one of your favorite players to coach while you were with the Chargers?
I think that was an easy one. He's there now. I don't know if you guys heard of Derwin James?
Absolutely. He reminds me of myself.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's unbelievable. Okay. When I say this, and I've said this to other people at times, is that you know how good a player he is. He's a better person than a player. Right. And so when you can say that about a guy who's a top-notch football player, that he's a better person, there's something there. The one thing I like about DJ, you can coach him hard. He never goes into the tank. He's, as far as practice is concerned, he's probably the hardest working guy out there on the field. Walkthroughs in his mind are like games. I mean, I'm talking about bent knees, the communication. Sometimes walkthroughs, they go through the motion, like you did at times with the University of Washington. Just went through the motion.
I can neither confirm nor deny the statement in question.
No, this guy was different. Now that was one. And now the other guy that I'm kind of fond of too is now Eric Weddle. Now what he just did this past month, if you want to call it that, coming off the couch playing basketball, to coming in and being a crucial factor for what they did to win the Super Bowl, that's unbelievable. Because I always thought of Eric as this. Now check this out. He is probably one of the best athletes you ever been around, meaning if you guys are playing ping pong, he's probably the best ping pong player. If you're playing golf, he's right there with you if you're a good golfer. If you're bowling, he's probably rolling a 300 with you. If you're playing ball, you know what he's going to do playing ball. He's like that. He's like a master of everything. We used to have a guy at the University of Washington who was there before you. It was Mo Hill. I don't know if you know Mo.
I know Lonzo.
Well, okay. Well, master of everything. That's how I see Weddle. He was a master of everything. So those two are probably a couple of the guys that really think of. DJ is going to establish himself. Eric's already done that. He's going right back into retirement. But those were two of the guys, especially at the safety position. Another guy who I think never really got his due because of the injuries is I'm gonna throw a name out there, see if you know it. Jason Verrett.
Interesting.
Unbelievable.
I remember hearing the name, but I don't recall.
Well,
I'm assuming it's due to the injury.
Injuries. Multiple injuries. But when he's on, he's as good as anybody I've ever coached. When I say that, this guy came in from TCU. Running sub 4.4, athletic as heck, loves the game of football. He just came in, his body really has failed him over time. But if that guy's healthy, he's a household name. I mean, I'm telling you, the first day we got him in training camp, I can remember right now, my assistant at the time, we were in one-on-one and we look at each other and we go, got one. So it was like that day one. But, obviously he's been injured. I got injured, was it last year with an Achilles? He's had a knee. He's had a couple shoulders. But when he was on, he was one of my favorites as far as just athletic ability and ability to play the game at a high level.
Coach, and one thing I want to bring up so our listeners can understand, people who follow the show, who watch all the podcasts of the show as well, is the durability of these athletes that you guys are out there coaching and training.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about how they get themselves prepared in the off season? And I ask this question because most people don't really take into account everything that they do in terms of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, the amount of film study, the amount of studying the plays, the adjustments on the fly. And this is all in the off season before we even get to the season. because people are so, caught up in what they see on Sundays and
Yeah.
what these guys are able to do, that they don't realize the amount of work that these guys put in to be able to perform like that week in and week out, with the physicality of the game of football. Can you tell them a little bit about how, what's the off season like for some of these guys,
Well,
how they get physically prepared for
well,
that 17-week season?
most of these guys have got their own trainer or someone who's going to work with them. So they are spending their hard-earned money on their body. Their body is their business at the end of the day. And so they may take off, 3 or 4 weeks right after the season just to heal up. But as soon as that maybe even mid-February or at the beginning of February, it's back on. And and normally those guys are either going somewhere, meaning Arizona, Florida, where all those, even California, where all those training centers are at, and spending their hard-earned money trying to get themselves better. Even in the off season, we even had kids come in. When I say kids, players come into the office and they worked with our people. We weren't per se able to, go through film and all that kind of good stuff. But, they were there. They knew that, at least I knew that they were working at their craft, meaning that they were putting the time for when it comes around to September, they're ready to go. Now, the one thing that I would say, the game of football, and I kid with people at times now, it really is a big man's game. When I think about it now, even some of the corners I've had in the past, the smaller guys, at times they tend to get hurt. The bigger guys, they tend to stay a little bit more healthy. And I've kind of grown to the fact, with Gus Bradley and what they did with the Seahawks, you can see what Richard Sherman looks like. He's 6'3" and he's 200 and some odd pounds, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's extreme as far as corner is concerned, 6'3". But the 6 foot guy is what we're looking for. Not so much the guys that look like me. So.
Now, for those of you who are wondering, Coach Milus he's just a hair under 6 feet tall.
Well, a little less than that. I'm about 5'9" and a quarter. But
look, I can tell you this, Coach, we dug up some old film on you back in the day.
Brother.
And I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever had any questions, Coach Milus could bring it back in the day. And I'll see if I can remind you of this, Coach. We were in the Husky weight room one day. We were all screwing around, getting our lifts in, but having a good time with what we did. And I want to say it was myself, Dave Kilpatrick, who was one of our inside backers, safety at the time. And it might have been Tommy Smith, actually, who was our other strong safety. But we were giving Coach Milus a hard time. And somebody, I think it was maybe 335 to 350 on the bench press. And, we used to always give Coach Milus a hard time. We're young. Coach Milus is in his late 20s, maybe early 30s at the time. And we're like, Coach Milus, there's no way you can get up under this bar and move this weight. And I'm going to tell you all right now, without hesitation, no warm-up, he sat himself right up on that bench press, took it off the rack, hit it a few times, and put it back, looked at us like we were crazy, and walked out.
You know what? I can remember that. The other guy that might have been there, because he used to call me Ronnie Big Chest, is Tony Parrish.
Tony Parrish.
Tony was, hey, that's Ronnie Big Chest.
Ronnie Big Chest. And for those of you who don't know, Tony Parrish, obviously, he played in the NFL for a good while, spent a lot of that time with the Chicago Bears. And he was an amazing athlete in himself. And I randomly ran into him one day in a sushi restaurant somewhere in West Hollywood, and it was the biggest reunion for a moment. And everybody in the restaurant was looking at us like we were about to fight, because we were staring at each other like, I know you. No, I know you. I was like, Tony, is Sweet Lou? And it was this massive hug. Sushi flying everywhere. Soy sauce was flying everywhere. And it was a great time. Listen, guys, I'm sitting here in the lounge with my old coach friend, NFL defensive back coach extraordinaire, Coach Ron Milus. He is now with the Indianapolis Colts, about to embark on another fun season of NFL. We're getting ready for the combine as well. So we're going to come back. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come back and pick Coach Milus's brain, see what they're looking at, how they evaluate talent in the combine, and see what he has to say about that and who they may or may not have their eye on. I don't want him to give anything away because everybody will be listening. But hey, this is Big Lou, the host of the Sports Lounge right here on AM 1290, KZSB, and 96.9 FM. We will be right back.